Welcome everyone to week 2 of the LEC 2023 winter season, live from Berlin, Germany. We are already done with 1/3 of the regular season. Let that sink in.
That went fast.
That's crazy. So every game matters. It always does, but even more now. And I have a couple of welcome guests. They're welcome, but they're also special. Ender, Perks, and Yamato. Perks, welcome. Joining us for the start of Ready Check. Fun. Since it was too late for PGL, this is an optimal solution. And Yamato, so great to see you again.
Yeah, it's great to be here. I've missed this place. It was fun to watch LEC week 1 from home and excited to be here in person.
Yeah, for sure. Now, the reason we got you here is because of our discussion topic, Perks. Basically, I wanted to ask my analysts who their top-rated duos were after week 1. So not just bot, but anywhere in the team, basically. And this is what Ender and Yamato came up with. First glance, Perks, what do you think?
Why am I not there?
You are there.
You are there. Just gotta look down at the bottom.
Yeah, behind you as well.
You guys are like, you didn't put me there, Yamato?
I'm sorry, man. If it was only the Mad Lions game, I would have for sure put you there, but there was some rough games. The first one, maybe.
So maybe we listen to your explanation first, because there's two G2 duos.
I'm done with this. I want to leave now.
You want to leave already?
Yeah. I'm being disrespected here.
Yeah, this is exactly why I wanted you on the segment, you know? Got to keep my analysts in line.
Being disrespected by the coach who's not even in LEC right now. Like,
I had to start with G2's bot lane. G2's bot lane, they're good.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you. They deserve to be first. I think, yeah.
Okay. I put them there because I think bot lane is just a little bit too broken now with a lot of the poke champions. I think if you're able to lane well, you can really transfer the pressure and blow up the game. I think Hansam and Mickey have shown many sides to what they can play, so for me it was a natural first.
I feel like you cheated though, because you put like two G2 duos
G2
in there. Like I didn't really know that was.
No one told me the rules.
In line with the rules. That's true. What are the rules? That's an important question.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm totally with you there. I have Mickey and Yike as my 1 and 2. Mickey, probably the best performing player in week 1. Like this guy was absolutely insane. And I think from like his early level 1 all-ins to get priority, to me, I saw him moving with Yike into the enemy jungle so frequently that like I kind of forgot about Hansama because it was just the Mickey Yike show just steamrolling the enemies.
Yeah, Perks, what have you thought? Of course, you're playing them on Monday, right, G2? What have you thought about this duo, but just G2 in general and how they've done?
I think Hans and Mickey have performed really well. I kind of had the idea they're going to be performing that well, at least early in the season. They do tend to, you know, sometimes fall off when the later seasons come.
Oh.
It's fine though, just leaving it out there. No, I think they're super good and they're definitely like scary to face because of what Yamato mentioned. Like they're good at laning, good at transferring the pressure. I think that's Hans's biggest strength. Always was, I think always will be. Like he's not like that, how do you say, call it, late game scaling AD carry. Is more that like win lane, lead the game, transfer your lead, snowball the game, and he's really good at that. So, yeah, I think they're definitely deservedly so. Good there, yeah.
But then, of course, Yike is in there as well in your list, right? Caps and Yike, I believe.
I really liked what they showed so far because it was very evident, like when situations, in terms of how Caps was trading, sometimes you could see that Yike was adjusting his pathing like 1 minute, 2 minutes ahead, just based on some of the setups around mid. I think there was a dive on an Azir in mid that was very clean, well executed. I think how they played together with Zac and Kindred was also very, very strong. And so far, in terms of how they work together, I think they've been quite sharp, but they've had an easy time because Mickey is always around.
That's a good point.
Mickey is always there, but I like the point you're talking about, how they're sort of setting up for Yike as well, because I think whenever Yike was like getting around like Wolves or Raptors, Caps would go for like a really aggressive trade in mid, and then Yike would sort of follow behind it. So already the lane's more volatile, either looking for a dive potentially off of that damage or looking to just invade with the priority. That seems sort of like the G2 playbook. It was just fight in lane when Yike is getting nearby, and then make an informed decision whether or not to punish the lane or enemy jungle.
Well, I see that Bo and Perks are your 3rd duo, so could you contrast that to how they've been playing?
No, so I've got you guys, mainly this Mad Lions game. I thought it was absolutely sick. From like the early gank, Bo went into mid lane when his blue buff was getting invaded and sort of pivoting off of that. But also, I just feel like it's so scary to play against you and Bo when you're on 2 champions that can like close so much distance, like Vi and Azir. Like, I don't know how you survive against this.
But I guess we did kill here enemy 2 versus 4 kind of, so that's pretty crazy, yeah. That was pretty fun, not gonna lie. Yeah.
Because I kind of like my other duo that I had was Hillis and Karzi, who were popping off down on the bottom side in this game, and it was kind of like the battle between you and Bo versus Karzi Hillisang on the opposite side. You guys got the upper hand. Maybe I shouldn't have put you guys in third place. Maybe second.
I mean, I'm not sure. Like as I mentioned, like we definitely have way more to show and more games to show. Like I don't think we've played like super insane. Just that game was like really good. So I think we have a lot more to show, and we'll show it for sure. No doubt.
Is it also the nature of how the junglers approach the games? Because we were talking about it earlier, the way Bo approaches the early game, while as aggressive as Yike, it's in a different way.
Yeah, Bo is more of a player. It's funny because our expectations was he's going to be this like heavy invade guy. You know, we remember like his Olaf from the LPL, but he's just been much more active, like playing around the lanes, looking for early ganks. Whereas Yike, on the opposite hand, it seems like is playing more of like the counter jungle style, getting inside the enemy jungle, et cetera, et cetera. But I mean, on the Vi and even on the Graves too, like has been super explosive around the lanes.
It goes a bit with the draft though. Like let's keep in mind, G2 bot lane was picking super heavy lane stuff all 3 games, while, for example, we've been picking more laid-back champion, like more scaling, because of our approach, right? And I think for Yike to look that good is also mainly because his bot lane was like really hard winning 100%. All 3 games. So while I think he's played super well, given that resources and all that pressure he has, I think for me it's too early to say how good he'll perform, and like his laners are not doing that great, you know?
Yeah,
like,
we were having this same conversation last week where it seems like if you have like lanes with like a ton of early game priority, that's kind of sort of how you can play the game as a jungler, is look to use that prio and sort of run in. But when you do draft like more scaling or less like overtly like powerful laning champions, that's when a guy like Bo has to get a little bit more involved and hit the actual lanes.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. We're gonna let you go so you can play your first game versus Astralis.
Thanks so much.
I mean, you can stay also if you want, but I think you have to.
No, actually, I'm really scared of losing to Astralis.
Yeah.
Like I had really bad like memories of losing to like teams that haven't won a lot.
Yeah.
And I feel like Astralis was really troll drafting last week, so I think they might be better than what they've shown. So I'm a bit scared.
I get it.
I'm just saying. Like,
you don't want to lose.
And I don't want to be that guy who loses right now to the 0-3 team. So hopefully we win today, and then Astralis wins a game or 2 the next day, so that I can be like, haha, at least we beat them, you know.
And
like,
so you can arrive at Monday 5-0 and G2
I mean,
5-0.
that would be hype. I think that it would be nice if both us and G2 were 5-0, because then they would be like, ooh, the hype match. 5-0.
It would be great.
Yeah,
All right,
I think that would be good.
My producer's telling me I gotta let you go.
I can
I'm
leave,
sorry.
right?
Yeah, you can just leave. Don't worry about it. Thank you so much for joining us.
Be free.
Good luck.
Thank you, guys.
Love it. Yeah, super interesting duos to follow overall. A bit heavy on the G2 and Vitality, but Mad Lion snuck in there as well, but I guess that's fair. Now, last week we had some great performances, and we also had some interesting stats, perhaps a little bit controversial stats. So we wanted to investigate the numbers because, you know, we don't like to present stats without context.
Yeah, basically the way I often look at stats in League of Legends is like you can sort of comb through them and you try to find like outliers that like give you a question. So one of those was the damage numbers on Maokai jungle. Absolutely insane. Like 959, that's like Ezreal tier damage. He was one of the highest like regular DPS characters in the game. But with this AP build and going for the demonic embrace, he gets so much just free poke via his saplings.
I think that you put the hammer on the nail of the head right away. I think just, you know, sometimes there's damage that kind of marinates the enemy before a fight, and sometimes that damage is relevant. But then there's healing, there's health regeneration, there's shield, sometimes there's Warmox armors that makes that damage less useful. In the context of Maokai, I think, you know, he does so much damage that it hurts too bad to heal that up.
Yeah, and he gives like really good setup before a fight. So we actually had some clips we wanted to walk you guys through and sort of break down how they play out. On top, you can see the saplings over in the right-hand corner of the screen, sort of guarding the bush. At this point, it's Demonic Embrace plus Radiant Virtue. So some good damage there on the Demonic. We can go ahead and play the clip from this point on forward. Because also, like, I just feel like the range of his abilities, like he's getting some free poke here.
Yeah.
Again, it's not like a full AP build or anything like that, so it's not the most impressive damage, but look at that, hits 3 players.
Oh, it stings.
The saplings, the roots as well come across, like that's impressive. This fight as well, similar build, a few more tank items on the opposite end, a lot of CDR, actually just spam out those saplings is really important. And as we play it, watch Crowny, because it's rare that you can hit a Caitlyn from this far away, but he's just getting bullied.
Yeah, the crazy thing about Maokai too, when you go this build, it's like the slow, it scales with HP too. The slow gets bigger, the duration gets bigger, and it's like, it's unavoidable because you need to cross these bushes. Bushes are just a big part of the game, sometimes not when there's Infernal map, but generally speaking, every time. An additional layer to it as well, with the durability patch, all of the objectives have gotten tankier, and when the objectives are tankier, the standoffs are longer, and then Maokai gets to throw more saplings. This is also
again,
a good one.
later in the game, not much later in, but we can go ahead and play this clip because Crowny, he gets hammered by them. Again, like, it's so hard to chase them down, and I feel like it's sometimes during like the game when you're watching it live, it's hard to see all these saplings because it's a pretty small ability, all things considered, when there's, you know, giant things flying around. Of course, the Elder Drake coming into play at the end there, but the long-range combination, poke power of Maokai plus Varus, that's another element we have to consider.
Yeah, it's crazy. Such an impressive pick. Next stat I want to look at is Reckless's damage from week 1. I do have a caveat. You might say the G2 game is skewing everything. He actually recorded the highest damage game in his G2 game out of these. But how can we contextualize these, and what do you think happened here?
Yeah, so I mean, like, one of the things I think of when I see something like this is, okay, what are the champions he was playing? So, like, I'm hypothesizing maybe because he was playing the Sivir in a game where his team wants to be diving forward, maybe he just enabled them and he wasn't actually able to get some hits off. But we wanted to walk through fights from both of his 2 games, the Sivir and the Varus game, to see if he's actually finding hits in the fights.
I think in this particular fight, you could see that Reckless wasn't tethering so well with his teammates. Maybe there was a mixed call, maybe he was afraid of a flank. He's also channeling his Q, so he's not really participating here. And then the fight becomes very, very divided, so he's not sure where he wants to go. He hasn't really basic attacked anyone yet, besides that ward, fires the ultimate, but the stopwatch comes out. And the first thing when he interacts with an enemy is when he gets Counter-Strike jumped by the Jax. Maybe if he tethered his movement better with his teammates, was there to get the Shirelia proc and had that move speed to commit to the fight with his team, and maybe it got him better, but there was many things that Fnatic could have done better.
It seemed like initially his spacing was poor. After that, the team as a whole didn't really know what they wanted to hit. Here's an example of them just full-on diving in this, and he actually takes the left route, again, trying to cut them off the pass. So that seemed like a decision to make sure no one could survive. It meant he couldn't hit quite as much. But in this fight, as everyone's kiting or running into him, he's able to kite back. This is where he gets a ton of damage off.
For sure. I think this was Reckless's best performance on the weekend, and even though his damage numbers weren't that high, it just didn't matter because Fnatic, contextually, with the composition, all they needed to do was poke, 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 and a lot of fights were decided before they even started, and that's where not Sivir is going to pop off. Here, Koi was facing a Salt Point, they had to fight all in, and that is when he showed up big with the 3-core item build.
Yeah, and the composition was also crazy.
Yeah, so I'd say overall verdict, the Varus game, maybe some problems there in terms of early spacing in fights, especially when there's like utility and spells being thrown at him. It started off with him cleansing away a Leon ult, I do believe. But in the Sivir game, I think that's a little bit easier to team fight. Your team is all deathballing. And then, of course, if they're kiting, if they're all running into him, he's getting the hits off just fine.
Final one is Heretics, who had really tricky early games in week 1. They died a lot and they weren't able to get that much for it. Could also be interpreted as, well, maybe they tried a lot and it just didn't pan out the way it
so importantly, there weren't a lot of solo deaths for this team. So I think they had 3 solo deaths overall, which was the 4th highest in the league. So kind of middling. What they did get punished at was a lot of these grouped up fights on the objectives.
No, for sure. You could see here in this situation, they felt safe to TP bottom with K-Sante, and Astralis used that moment to punish. I think that often you see Team Heretics being grouped on the same screen, which I think is a big plus when you think of first week performances. But all in all, some of the execution, maybe the draft could have been a lot easier because you see that the enemy team is more compact and kiting backwards, while Team Heretics only have 1 gear and they're pushing forward.
Yeah. The first fight, Ebby is TPing out and then they get engaged on. This one, I don't think they actually expected Perks to be coming behind the wall. Yeah. That's the other thing I wanted to talk about, though, because like here they're getting invaded and punished again. Just a 4v4 with top laners not in the picture. But in the first replay, it was so much single target damage, right? You have Cassiopeia mid, and they were all hitting individual targets, right? The decision to fight, maybe not poor, but their target selection kind of poor. And then the second one, they have a Kassadin, right? Level 9 Kassadin not contributing all too much here. They're getting invaded and punished as well, not being able to finish off the targets they need.
Interesting, and thank you for interpreting those stats so that we see a little bit of the play that was behind them. Now, our players, they have also been tested with their stats knowledge as they played higher or lower in the latest episode of Pop Quiz.
We're going to start with something called higher or lower. I'm going to show you a player on the screen, and then I'm going to show you a player after that, and you need to tell me if that player had a higher amount or a lower amount of kills compared to the one before.
Okay.
These are stats from summer 2022
Regular season.
only, so no playoffs.
Oh my god.
But you were playing, so.
Yeah, I mean, I remember this bit.
And I know you were in NA, but maybe you watched it in a VU.
Yeah. I need to get. I didn't really watch much.
Okay. So first I'm showing you Jonghoon,
Okay.
and now I'm showing you Nuke. Did Nuke have higher or lower amount of kills?
Okay.
It's a trap question, right?
I mean, it must have higher, right?
But BDS lost so many games actually. Considering Jonghoon played Pyke, he had lower amount. I think lower.
Okay.
Than you?
Yeah. I'll just go for the obvious. Just Nuclear had higher amount of kills.
So Jonghoon had 22 kills,
22 kills.
and Nuke had 55.
Oh, I'm sorry. I hope he never sees this.
Like, it's such a no-brainer because support the mid lane, so it's like really obvious answer. But like I thought you are like being like smart, but I guess you're just casual.
All right, and now compared to Nuclear Int, your jungler, Markoon. Was Markoon higher or lower than Nuclear?
Did he have like some really insane games, Markoon? Have to get like 3 kills a game at least. I'd say
lower.
Let's
I'd say higher.
Correct, higher. So he won't hit you because he's your
Yeah,
jungler.
I mean, he's next to me as well. So I'm just gonna...
And now from Markoon to Odo.
Although regular season, didn't he only play tanks?
I think for sure lower.
Also lower.
Odoamne had 42 kills.
Wow, that's trash, dude.
You had 36.
I suck. That's really low.
And now compared to Odoamne, Finn.
Actually, this is not. I'm not certain, but I think to me comes to mind a player that tries to play carry. Very important here is tries.
Actually, he played lots of tanks as well. I would say higher.
So Finn was lower.
Higher.
No, I'm telling you, Finn was lower.
No.
Yeah, he was.
No. I don't think so.
Lower?
Ah. That doesn't say anything good about Finn. Since he was playing like Irelia, he didn't play his Kled.
Yeah.
That's why.
So now compared to Finn, was Broken Blade higher or lower?
I mean, BB had for sure more kills than Finn. Like, there's no way. BB, like, I remember he was really smurfing, so he for sure had more.
I mean, BB must have more kills, no? Because he plays like a monkey and Perma goes in and plays only carries.
He had such a good jungler that it was easy to get kills that season. I remember watching like G2 games that season, and like the jungle was insane.
And welcome back to the LEC. Great to hear from our players, obviously. Now, I wanted to talk a little bit about how things would play out if the playoffs were right now, or if the group stage was right now. If you already understand our format and know exactly how everything's going to happen, stop listening. You don't need to pay any attention for the next 2 minutes. However, you can flame me because we're going to put Fnatic in 9th place, even though they're tied 5th. So tweet at me, be like, I can't believe you're so biased against Fnatic, and then you can go about the rest of your day. However, for the rest of you that don't really understand how our format plays out, let me talk you through it. We have 2 more weeks of best of ones, and then after that, our teams will end up in a certain position. This is the position they're in at the moment. This is the position we're going to use. After that, we then separate them into different groups depending on their seeding. G2 and Vitality, because they are 1st and 2nd seed here, would go into 2 sides of our groups, and then all of these next 6 teams are drawn into the groups at random. One important thing is that Koi and Mad Lions have to be drawn into separate groups, SK and XL have to be drawn into separate groups, as do BDS and Heretics. Now, G2 get the option to play either SK or BDS in this scenario. They'll pick BDS because they're the lower seed, which means Mad Lions will then play up against SK. Vitality would get the option to play either XL or Heretics. They'll pick Heretics. I'll press that again. They'll pick Heretics, and then Koi would play up against XL. Let's just pretend that G2, we'll just go through the top side of the bracket. We'll pretend that G2 win and Mad Lions win. Well, now that they've both won 1 best of 3, they only need to win 1 more best of 3 to make it into our playoffs. We'll say that G2 beat Mad Lions in that top playoff game. What happens to BDS and SK after they lose that single best of 3? Well, they'll just go into the lower side of the bracket. They'll play against each other. The loser of this is eliminated from our finals section of the format, and we'll say SK are the team that are eliminated. Mad Lions, after losing to G2, will play up against BDS. We'll say they win, and they would be our 2nd team going into the playoffs. It's really actually quite simple. After we get through our best of ones, you have to win 2 best of 3s to make it into the playoffs, and our top 4 teams will be there and play against each other in some best of 5s. Now tomorrow, 2 of the most successful teams in LEC history recently are clashing as Koi and Mad Lions face off in our LG Ultra Gear match of the week.
Carzzy, Hissing bot lane, they have 2 really crazy players.
They might just be completely int.
I think they're going to be crazy bot lane.
Yeah, they're quite wild. Either going to go 10-0 or 0-10.
Flash away from Neon. Kaiser, of course, doesn't have flash cards. He just needs a couple more orders.
Look at that! The Gale Force as well!
For Koi, this is a chance for them to show once more that they are the dominant team in Europe. Show once more that it wasn't just a fluke that happened in summer and that they are here to gain more titles and put more than just one in their cabinet.
Comp is so incredibly low. Soraka now healing up. Comp, they're trying to cut him down with Patrick getting burned. Trimby to bananas! Oh, that is not what you want! Flash banana, the flash banana! Oh! Again, they're trying to smite this. Shio charging the Q has to go back in, but they just give it! It's just a big leash! Koi saying, thanks for the leash, thanks for the fight.
So far we haven't been challenged too much. I think it will be nice to see harder matchup. I hope there is a lot of fist fight.
Our match of the week with a lot of history in recent years. These are the 2 teams that have won most of the titles. And I hear you already. What about G2 Vitality? Well, I'm here to sell you on this one because of the history between those 2. And I want to say in a big part, but for me at least, because of the bot lanes as well.
Yeah, this is the new Classico match lane right here. And on one side, you have Comp Trimby that have been so strong for so long here in EMEA. And then Carzzy Hylissang, who I think shocked a lot of people. Carzzy coming back to the Mad Lions. Hylissang, week 1, absolute redemption for this guy as well. They're playing the Enchanters down the bot side too, but are constantly finding kills in their 2v2.
I think the main thing, the discussion always around Hilly is some of his deaths or some of his plays in the late game, but something that is so important to remember about Hilly is in terms of lane phase precision, he is one of the absolute best. And I think the same thing can be said for the Koi bot lane as well. We've seen 2v2 kills from both sides. You have the Kalista Soraka lane, which is a classic that we saw in the finals last year. I think in terms of the fireworks we're going to see in the bot lane matchup is going to be absolutely incredible and so fun to watch.
It's going to be great. Of course, they both started fantastically. We're 2-0, but then lost on the last day. So they're really going to want to win this one. But aside from our match of the week, which is tomorrow, we also quickly wanted to have a take a look. Oh my God, Shocks. Take a look.
Look, you caught it from Medic, okay? He started it with before the match of the week.
Take a look at Monday, which we're going to call our new match of the week because it's a Monday, G2 versus Vitality. Or
yeah, match of the new week.
Match of the new week, aka the MSI 2023 finals preview between G2 and Vitality.
Yeah, sure.
Why not?
Why
I can
not?
get behind it.
Why not?
Look, we're sending 2 teams to Worlds or MSI now. I don't know, we have more than 2 teams at Worlds, guys. Trust me. Just 2 teams at MSI. Look, MSI, that's EMEA playground, right? Worlds, we don't care about that tournament, but MSI, that's where we roll.
Maybe if we're lucky, we get to see 2 best of 5s between them because MSI is double elimination.
Oh.
Even greater for all of us.
Yeah. As a reminder, it is the spring and winter champions that go to MSI. Obviously, this is a funny one. We aren't being completely serious, but the copium is copying, okay? Because look at this. This is bringing me back. And overall, I think the main thing here, Yamato, is that Vitality and G2 are undefeated. They each had different trajectories in week 1, but were so impressive. So this is going to be a great matchup.
No, so for sure, both teams hit the ground running, and I'm hoping that they continue in the same fashion. So we get exactly what Perk says, that 5-0, 5-0, a matchup on Monday.
G2 look like they have the best early game in the league right now. Like I want to see the top level competition try to undo that because it looks unstoppable.
It does. So hopefully they arrive there at 5-0. But as Perk said, I'm a little bit scared of losing to Astralis. Now they will be playing them in their first game. And Yamato, you wanted to take a closer look at Bo in week 1.
Bo has been such a joy to watch. Like I've been watching his Champions Queue games, I've been watching his solo queue games, and it's so fun for me to see that all of that replicates itself on stage as well. The main thing that Bo does so well, it's almost like Malrang-esque in terms of how he avoids vision. If a jungler avoids your vision, that false sense of security you get from your vision is no longer there. The most dangerous jungler is the one that can be everywhere and nowhere at the same time. So let's play this clip. This one was, in particular, a very important one because They had a ward here. They knew that the mid laner placed it. What are the options that Graves has as he is going to walk through here? He's going to do his red buff. They have a ward on Tribush as well. So Fnatic bot lane, they feel safe. They want to leverage the Varus and the Rakan to pressure the bot lane, and all of a sudden he dashes over the wall. They're thinking, Bo is Graves, he's going to farm. He's going to do his golems. And then boom, he comes up there with his shotgun, fires away at the enemy, and the gank happens. Natural for Reckless, natural for Rux to want to pressure their lane here, but in all honesty, the Graves is right there behind you. So all of a sudden, if this happens to you once, how are you going to go into a next game against Bo if this is what you see in the replay? The next one is also super important because as we go through this replay, the whole situation that Mad Lions have set up is so beautiful. Elioya, trying to press the button, very hard for me, I'm very old and washed up. Elioya goes into the jungle, Hilly has Pry on bot, they push out Bo. All of a sudden, Niski feels so safe because Bo is low HP and they took over the whole bot side jungle. He's thinking, not in a million years will Bo gank him from bottom side. But what does Bo do? He waits for Mad Lions to go away. Bo in a very difficult position is going for the Niski gank. And Niski is pushing forward. He's winning lane against Perks. He's feeling good. And all of a sudden, this jungler that got pushed out. Elioya was saying in comms maybe Bo is completely out of the game. And all of a sudden, we have this KO that saves the game. We don't need to watch this part because they kind of messed this part up, but it's not a part of my point, so it doesn't matter. Now we're going to look at a beautiful heat map that some homies in the back created for us.
A kill map, actually. Thank you for that. Great to see how Bo plays around Vision. But indeed, we're going to take a look at the kill map because earlier we heard that one of the best duos was Photon.
That's what you
chose
said.
Photon and Bo.
You said that?
Photon and Bo.
They're my homies.
Yeah, so I wanted to look at the kill map.
You're hyping up the mid jungle a lot in that replay, so I don't know.
Yeah, but when we look at this one, what's going on here? Explain it to us,
All right,
plebs.
let me explain, okay? So, as the nuanced eye looks at the game, as a top lane, former top laner in the LCS from Season 3, I know how much impact just hovering around top side, one gank can do in all of these volatile matchups that we saw. And I like to see that because we see so little of that in Europe. So I wanted to praise that and highlight that. Bo going with the Sejuani top, breaking open a Jackson to K'Sante matchup. I like that. I don't need kills to be happy.
Okay.
Look, I think Bo and Photon are great. But Perks was absolutely fragging the other day, smurfing it up around the mid lane. Look,
This isn't Valorant, Ender.
That's my bad. That's my bad.
Yeah,
He's fire.
Very impressive overall from Vitality, and they are facing off against Astralis in our first game of the week. Laura standing by with their top laner, Finn. Take it away.
And thank you, Shox and Finn. Also, thank you for joining me ahead of today's game. Let's talk about this team that you joined, Astralis, the mix of players you're playing with, and how is it going so far with them?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a great first week, right? I think we all had higher expectations, frankly. I think in practice, we've been doing really well leading up to week 1, and I think we were all really I think we all felt the pressure and the nerves coming into the first games. I think we weren't really ourselves, and we couldn't really execute the same plans within scrims, and it just felt like everyone was a bit off. So gaining that experience, I think, is crucial and paramount for this weekend, leading into these games, because now we're actually in a position where we need to win. So relying on that experience from last week, I think we're going to do a lot better this week.
Yeah. That's all I can wish for you guys, and especially when you think of the new schedule we have, the new format and everything, the fact that you have 3 weeks to make a difference, otherwise, well, you're just out. Is it something that you're thinking of, and how are you making sure that pressure in that sense doesn't affect you guys too much? Because as you said, it was just 1 week. Getting back to work is not the easiest, especially on the first time. So yeah, how are you dealing with everything?
Yeah, I mean, the pressure will always be there, right? And I think if we don't make it to top 8, I don't think we deserve to play a lot longer. But definitely, I think we just have to play our game. We just have to do what we do well, play to our strengths, and not try to do too much, but just do the basics right, play to our fundamentals, and just execute on our plans.
I hope it can come the right way this week. Tell me about 113, because I know the expectations were high and people had their eyes on him. I know him from the LFL. How has he been doing so far?
Yeah, I think he's great to work with. He's very crazy in game, and I like it. I always like a player that's aggressive more than passive, because it's easier to tone it down than amp it up. And he definitely has a lot of individual potential. He's very good at seeing plays. He's very willing to learn as well. He takes feedback very well, and I can see his improvement from week to week. And I just hope he keeps on growing in this race, because then he'll be really good by the end of the year.
That's amazing to hear. And being aggressive especially is going to come in handy today as you're facing off against Vitality. Anything you can tell me about this team? Because we were talking about the top side of the map especially, and how both setups Photon so well, and how crazy Photon can be, especially when he has the minimum HP.
Yeah, yeah, Photon is definitely an interesting player. Played him much in scrims. I think he he's very hit or miss sometimes. He can hit very hard as he did last weekend. He can also miss. I think today I'll make sure he's gonna miss, and we're gonna beat him, I think.
Awesome. Well, I wish you the best of luck, Finn. Thank you again for the interview. Maybe get you after the game.
Yeah.
And Mehdi, Veli, back to you for the first game.